Demons are the main villains in the manga or anime Demon Slayer, and like all villains, they need to meet their end in order for the story to reach its conclusion. So, here's every upper demon's death in Demon Slayer. At number 1, we have Daki and Gyutaro. Daki and Gyutaro are both Upper Moon 6 connected together, and could only be killed if both of their heads are severed. This is probably why a lot of Hashiras had problems with them in the past. They died in the Entertainment District arc. In the final fight, Gyutaro manages to land a powerful attack to the left side of Tengen's face, resulting in the loss of his left eye, and proceeds to stab Tengen. Tanjiro yells out to Tengen after witnessing him get stabbed, but Tengen orders him to ignore him and jump. Tanjiro leaps into the air towards Gyutaro and attempts to decapitate him, but is seemingly stabbed through the jaw by Gyutaro's sickle. The brother demon begins to panic as they gain the upper hand and pulsates his poison to try to kill Tanjiro, but he endures the pain and swings his blade towards Gyutaro. It's revealed that the demon siblings are able to keep the demon slayers at bay through a hidden ability. During the battle, Gyutaro was controlling his sister and was able to see through her point of view, giving them the advantage. His poison also affected the demon slayers greatly, but there was always a member of the team that would slip through, allowing them to continue the fight. Tanjiro can be seen swinging his blade down onto Gyutaro's neck, despite the demon's sickle piercing through his jaw. However, his arm strength isn't enough to slice through his neck, so he resorts to forcing his entire body to push through, ignoring the pain. Gyutaro notices the change in Tanjiro's scar as he develops a demon slayer mark, and his eyes roll back into his head. The change in his demeanor proves to be too great, as Tanjiro's blade cuts through Gyutaro's neck, causing him to panic. While Tanjiro and Tengen fend off Gyutaro and try to decapitate him, Daki can be seen resisting Zenitsu's attempt to decapitate her. She attempts to use her obi to kill Zenitsu at a close range, but Inosuke unexpectedly rushes up, revealing that he protected his heart from being stabbed by rearranging his organs. He also reveals that poison has no effect on him since he was raised in the mountains, before proceeding to assist Zenitsu in decapitating Daki. The three boys let out a roar as they muster out the strength to slice through the demons' necks. After the long battle, Zenitsu and Inosuke manage to decapitate Daki up on the rooftop, while Tanjiro can be seen decapitating Gyutaro simultaneously on the ground. Their decapitated heads then fall to the ground, each facing each other. As their heads begin to disintegrate, Daki screams at her brother, blaming him for their defeat, and claiming that an unsightly thing like him could never be her sibling. Gyutaro retaliates that Daki was weak and never did anything to help. Saddened by the siblings' bickering, Tanjiro then steps in, covering Gyutaro's mouth to stop him from screaming abuse at his sister, and pleading with them to try and get along, as they only had each other left in the world, since everyone else hated them. Daki began to cry, wailing that she didn't want to die, but her head finally disintegrated, leaving Gyutaro alone. As Gyutaro began to remember their life before becoming demons, Daki appeared to him in her original form as Ume, asking him where they were going and to take her along with him. He initially rejects her, sharply telling her not to follow him, but Ume suddenly embraces him tightly, apologizing for her past words, and crying out that they were siblings and that she'd never let him go. The pair then depart to the afterlife, with Gyutaro carrying Daki on his back as he had always done before. At number 5, we have Gyoko. During the last moments of Tokido and Gyoko's fight, Gyoko traps Muichiro with his water prison pot technique, commenting that death by suffocation is stylish and beautiful. While Muichiro struggles to escape the water prison pot, Gyoko advances upon the shed. He enters and sees Hotaru Hagenazuka working on the blade extracted from the training doll. Hotaru doesn't notice Gyoko's entrance behind him, enraging Gyoko at the prospect of another artist being more concentrated on his craft than he could be. He summons a fish to attack Hotaru, breaking the swordsmith's mask, but not his concentration. Hotaru's dedication to the blade incentivizes Gyoko to force him to break his concentration rather than straight up murdering him. Meanwhile, Muichiro escapes from the water prison pot with help from Kotetsu, surprising Gyoko and causes him to unleash his octopus vase hell technique. Muichiro's sea of clouds and haze technique nicks Gyoko, and he ducks back inside his pot, reappearing into a different pot. He argues with Muichiro about the beauty of his pots, becoming enraged after an insult to their balance, and unleashes his 10,000 gliding slimefish technique. After Muichiro deflects 2 of his attacks, Gyoko reveals his true form and becomes more serious about killing him. Gyoko's true form has the ability to turn anything he punches into fish, and has heightened speed and strength. Muichiro uses obscuring clouds to decapitate Gyoko, much to his disbelief. At number 4, we have Hantengu. Hantengu's fight was a tricky one because he had so many personalities, it was hard for the Slayers to know which one is the main unit up until the end of the fight. Just as Sekido is about to land the fatal blow, his arm is severed by Tanjiro, causing him to land only a minor blow. As Sekido reeled from the attack, Aizetsu attempted to attack Tanjiro from behind with a flurry of air slashes. His attack was foiled by Genya, who took the brunt of the attack, allowing Tanjiro to land a blow with his fiery blade on the miniature Hantengu, who screamed in agony. As the fear demon continued to shriek, a sixth Hantengu appeared from behind Tanjiro, who continued to press his attack. However, the boost he got from Nezuko's blood had run out, and the blade was halted by the miniature Hantengu's thick neck. Genya shot at the sixth Hantengu, who struck at one of the drums on his body, summoning an amalgamation of a tree and dragon, which attacked Tanjiro and flung him up into the sky. Mitsuri then arrived and caught Tanjiro, gently allowing him to rest while she fought the Hatred Clone. The Hatred Clone wrapped his miniature body in a protective covering of branches. This new form was revealed to be the result of Sekido absorbing Karaku, Urogi, and Aizetsu, who reacted with a strong glare as Tanjiro told him to stop protecting his fear counterpart. He asked him if he had a problem with what he was doing, calling the pair of demon slayers evil as the mini Hantengu cowered and trembled in his wooden protection. He answered Tanjiro's question about why he said they were evil by pointing out their attack on a smaller version, something he called pure injustice and something only a savage would do. He stood impassively as Tanjiro pointed out his misdeeds, promising to cut the hatred demon's head off. In the end, Tanjiro manages to behead him using Hinokage Kagura Flame Dance. However, the head Tanjiro had just cut was actually not the real Hantengu, since the proven body of Hantengu continued to run away. As the sun was about to rise, Tanjiro decides to continue in pursuit upon Nezuko's sacrifice. Tanjiro eventually locates Hantengu's real body inside of the headless Hantengu's heart. Ultimately, Hantengu finally dies after having his torso slashed by Tanjiro. However, just beforehand, Hantengu had managed to inform Muzan about Nezuko's immunity to sunlight. At number 3, we have Akaza. Akaza died in the fight in the Infinity Castle arc between him, Tanjiro, and Giyu. After Tanjiro could enter the see-through world, he was able to sneak behind Akaza, who was unable to notice that Tanjiro was behind him. Giyu hopes he goes for the neck that instant. However, Tanjiro calls the demon out. Akaza turns to strike, but Tanjiro dodges. Akaza couldn't detect his fighting spirit via the compass, and Tanjiro manages to decapitate Akaza with the Hinokami Kagura Setting Sun transformation. Akaza was bewildered, wondering how Tanjiro didn't have any fighting spirit, comparing this feeling to fighting against a plant. He acknowledges that Tanjiro surpassed his speed. He realizes that the domain of supremacy is nothing less than the transparent world and a selfless state. He tries to attach his head back on his body, but Giyu throws his broken sword, piercing the head and separating it from the body. His head continues to disintegrate, but his body continues to fight, using his technique development Destructive Death, Compass Needle. Tanjiro dodges his chops, but is thrown aside by the demon's kick. Tanjiro then tries to get up and fight, but the stress and exhaustion of the fight causes him to pass out. Giyu protects Tanjiro with the water-breathing fourth form, Striking Tide, slicing the headless body in various regions, but the demon regenerated too fast. The two begin to trade blows, and although Giyu is badly hurt, he still focuses on protecting Tanjiro, giving Akaza vague memories of Keizo. As he advances, he's stopped by the teary-eyed spirit of his human self's deceased fiancée, Koyuki, telling him to stop. Giyu continues to stand up, burdened with the desire and goal to not let his friends or family die in front of him, like his sister and Sabito. Hiyuki holds Akaza as his head continues to regenerate. Akaza begins to remember why he wanted to become strong and thinks back to the time he was the demon child Hakuji, from his father's death to meeting Keizo and Koyuki. He remembers trying to find a purpose and reason in life, finding someone to protect. His memories of his past suddenly come rushing back. During this, Tanjiro manages to wake up and Akaza's head was halfway recovered. The demon attempts to kill Giyu with his Destructive Death Annihilation type, and Tanjiro rushes to stop him, but his sword slips and he punches Akaza, causing him to question his current deeds and regret sullying his master's precious style. As he prepares a technique, Tanjiro tries to pull Giyu away, but with a smile of gratitude on his face, Akaza uses the technique on himself, mutilating and pulverizing himself and reducing many parts of his body to bones. Akaza admits defeat, stating that Tanjiro's technique was magnificent and that he wants to go to hell like a man. He imagines his father and Keizo, but then when he remembers Muzan asking if he wanted to get stronger, he begins to regenerate. He's then stopped again by Koyuki, thankful about Hakuji recovering his memories and thanking him for what he had done. Finally finding peace, Akaze disintegrates, dying as Hakuji, a loyal son, protective student, and faithful partner. At number 2, we have Doma. In the beginning of his fight with the Demon Slayers, Doma absorbed Shinobu without knowing that she had enough poison in her to damage him, and after a battle with Inosuke and Kano, Doma's face began to melt while he was trying to exit the room. He drops to the floor and one of his arms snaps off. His crystal children begin to crack and disintegrate as he wonders what's happening. Inosuke asks if it's a trap, but Kanao, having been informed prior to the Battle of Shinobu's battle to kill Doma, tells him that it isn't, and that the demon is being melted by the poison that Shinobu had in her body when he consumed her. She tells Inosuke to aim for his neck and finish him off, and in a panic, Doma plays his final and most powerful card, Blood Demon Art, Rhyme Water Lily Bodhisattva. Doma's Ice Bodhisattva statue slams down its hand on the floor of the room, creating a small earthquake that sends Inosuke and Kanao up into the air. Kanao notes that his techniques lack precision, and is clearly the demon's last effort to protect himself with the little energy he had left. Kanao uses flower-breathing final form Equinoctial Vermilion Eye to try and break through to him. Doma's statue grabs Inosuke in one of its hands as Kanao leaps upwards towards the upper rank, hitting her blade against his neck. However, she's unable to cut it, so Inosuke on the spot comes up with and uses beast-breathing Sudden Throwing Strike to hurl his blades at Kanao's to give it the extra strength needed to cut Doma's neck. They succeed in beheading him, and the upper rank too and his statue begins to disintegrate. As his head falls to the floor, Doma thinks about how pathetic he must be to have lost to a poisoner like Shinobu, someone who didn't even have the strength to kill a demon by cutting its head. He thinks to himself that he shouldn't give up, and that he should try to regenerate his head like Muzan-kan and Akaza almost did, but soon comes to realize that it would be futile, and that he is going to die. In his final moments, Doma said that he's not afraid of death, or even frustrated that he lost. He recalls his past as a human and his inability to feel any emotion. Doma opens his eyes to Shinobu, who is holding his severed head in one hand. She asks if he's finally dead, and says that she can now rest in peace. Doma asks her if her name is Shinobu or Kanae, and says that it doesn't really matter, because he makes her sick, and she doesn't want him to say her name anyway. He ignores this, going on to compliment her for her poisoning skills, and expresses his surprise at not noticing that it had circulated through him before it was too late. She smiles and explains that a demon called Tamayo helped her make it. Shinobu says that she's frustrated that she couldn't kill him herself and that she can no longer help the other demon slayers defeat Muzan, but she's still satisfied with the result. Doma gives her a look, and Shinobu asks what's wrong, to which the demon says that he felt like his heart is beating and wonders if he's in love with Shinobu. He thinks out loud that if love really exists, heaven and hell must too, and asks Shinobu if she wants to go to hell together with him. She tells him to go to hell and calls him a worthless bastard. At number 1, we have Kokushibo. Kokushibo is the strongest upper rank out of all the 6. He's the brother of Yoriichi and the holder of the moon-breathing form. Kokushibo fought Sanemi, Gyome, Muichiro, and Genya all at once. After some fight scenes, the battle then begins to pick up, with Kokushibo's attacks increasing with intensity and frequency. He's able to sever 2 of Sanemi's fingers, and Gyome and Sanemi are both reduced to putting all of their efforts into simply avoiding his attacks. Right when it seems that Sanemi is about to lose, Muichiro rejoins the battle, saving the other Hashira just in time. Genya, who is hiding from the battle behind a wall, recalls a conversation he had with Tanjiro about being the weakest person in a battle, and motivated by this, swallows a broken shard of Kokushibo's blade in order to gain its abilities. The advantage then seems to again shift to Kokushibo, but in an unexpected turn of events, Gyome is able to sever the upper rank's right arm while Muichiro stabs him through the torso, immobilizing him while Genya unleashes a barrage of bullets on the demon using his gun, which he had altered using his own cells in a similar manner to Kokushibo's sword. The bullets embed into the demon's flesh and then erupt into trees, completely trapping him as Gyome and Sanemi rush to finish him off. The sensation disturbs Kokushibo, who is reminded of his encounter with his brother from 400 years ago, Yoriichi, after not having seen him for 60 years. In the encounter, Yoriichi was able to land a hit on his brother's neck, which no one had ever done before. However, Yoriichi passed away on his feet before he was able to land the next blow. Enraged by the thought of being defeated, Kokushibo spouts multiple blades from his body, mortally wounds Muichiro and Genya, and severely injures Sanemi and Gyome. Still, the 4 charge onwards, undeterred. As Muichiro's blade turns red, seemingly searing Kokushibo's organs, Genya unleashes another blood demon art, rooting another tree in Kokushibo's back, while Gyome lands a blow on Kokushibo's head with his flail, and Sanemi rushes in with his sword. Their weapons all begin to turn red, and struck with thoughts of his brother, Kokushibo marvels at how the demon slayers who came after them have risen up to surpass them. However, wonder soon gives way to rage as Kokushibo's head is cut off, and to the horror of the 4 demon slayers, he regrows his head. Kokushibo begins to celebrate, boasting to himself that now that he's conquered death by beheading, any attacks thrown at him are now rendered meaningless. However, his triumph gives way to disbelief when he sees himself in the reflection of Sanemi's blade. His new form is monstrous, with tusks and spikes protruding from his head, face and back. Disgusted by his new appearance, he recalls his earlier motivation to be the strongest samurai in the country and wonders if the path he's taken is what he really wanted. While he reflects on his motivations, Gyome is able to crush his head with this flail, again beheading Kokushibo. The upper rank attempts to regenerate again, but to his disbelief, his flesh begins to crumble away, and he's unable to use his blood demon art as he falls to the ground disintegrating. He reflects bitterly that he only wanted to be like Yoriichi. He's reminded that the only thing he wanted to forget is the thing he can only remember vividly, Yoriichi's face. While his life flashed before him, he admits that he abandoned everything, and that in the end, he achieved nothing by killing his only remaining blood relative and betraying his samurai code. In his final moments, he questions why he was ever born, calling to his brother for an answer before fading away completely and leaving only his brother's broken flute behind. Before we end the video, here's some honorable mentions. Kaigaku got the spot of the upper 6th and was eventually defeated by Zenitsu using his thunder-breathing 7th form. Nakame was also an upper rank. She was promoted to upper rank 4 and was killed by Muzan himself when he saw that she was being controlled.